Since 2000, the Difference Maker of the Year Awards recognize youth who are making a positive impact in advancing inclusion and accessibility. Nominations are open for this year's awards until April 6th, and we're joined today by Talina Papazian, Difference Maker of the Year recipient and current Youth Leadership Committee member, plus Teri Thorson, manager of Rick Hansen Foundation School Program. So we're going to kick things off with Talina. And Talina, first of all, thank you for joining us on the Pulse.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure.
It is a pleasure to have you. And I just want to start by asking you, just tell me a little bit about your story of why does accessibility, why is it meaningful for you?
That's such a good question. When I was 6 years old, my younger brother was diagnosed with an anaphylactic peanut allergy. And while it isn't considered a typical disability, for my family, I saw a lot of ways in which it changed the way we could interact with other people. It led to social isolation for my brother. But I didn't really know what to do. I was just 6. And then I started volunteering at a children's rehab at the age of 16. And I saw that, so many other children were also facing social isolation due to different situations. And that's when I was like, I got to do something. So I decided to write a children's book, and the children's book now serves as a tool to champion inclusion and accessibility all across Canada in schools, classrooms, and organizations.
That's really cool. And you're 19 or 18 right now, right? So
yeah, I'm 19 now, yeah.
So that's amazing. And I just wanted to ask you, first of all, what impact did volunteering at the summer camp have on you?
It completely changed my life. I really wanted to go into pediatric medicine, but I wasn't sure. And it was like the second where I decided, okay, this is what I want to do. But medicine is so much more than just being a doctor. It's about advocacy. It's about everything other than just the medical aspect for children who face these challenges. And that's where I was like, I can already start making a difference from now just by maybe writing a book and seeing where it goes. I really didn't know where it was going to go at that age, but I'm glad it is going where it's going.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that you were kind of expecting maybe to take on like a teaching role when you were at the summer camp, but that the individuals with disabilities also taught you quite a lot in return. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, exactly. I think at 16 years old, I was like, okay, I'm going into a camp. I'm the volunteer. And I've been to camps, and, the volunteers, they kind of know what they're doing. They kind of know what they're doing, and they kind of tell you what to do. And for me, that was the experience that I had. And that's the experience I went in with. But I came out with a completely different mindset. I saw that, kids, people with differences, everybody can teach you something valuable. And that's what I hope to capture in my book.
Tell me about the book.
The book is called You Taught Me. It is now available in 3 languages, English, French, and Mandarin. And it basically takes kids ages 6 to 12 through a bunch of different kind of frames of kids having fun at a camp, some with disabilities, some with not, and how play can look really different for different people, but we can also do it together. And at the end of the book, I kind of want to enforce that, everybody, regardless of a limitation or a disability, can truly feel happiness. And that is one aspect that really connects us all.
So for the audience for your book, are you looking at people, mainstream audience and kids with disabilities?
Anybody, any kid should be having access and reading the book. Because it has lessons for all children. It's not just for a child with or without a disability.
And it's kind of like collection of creative fictional characters with disabilities, or more just a factual narrative?
Well, completely fictional. I mean, they were based on people that I had met, but it's a complete mix because I don't want to give out any identities or things like that. Completely anonymous. They're kids I kind of created, and kids who have different skills and different strengths and different weaknesses based on not their disabilities, but based on who they are as a person.
That's really cool. What was the most impactful part of writing and or publishing the book for you?
I think for me, the most impactful part, and it continues to be the most impactful part, is when I go into classrooms or I go into events and I work with kids. That seeing a child's face light up when they read the book and connect with it is so magical. It's so wonderful. And I met this little boy who I had met him. he listened to a reading. He went home and he told his mom, if she can do it at 17, I can do it at 7. And so he decided to start a podcast. And that was like, wow, you can really make a difference, even if you're just whatever, 17, 7. It doesn't matter as long as you believe in yourself and you take the right steps and you ask for help when you need help.
Absolutely. And it's everybody that needs help, whether you're disabled or able-bodied. Just living in a more inclusive society where those resources are available really makes all the difference. So as part of your book, you have the You Taught Me campaign, which you talked about, where you actually go to different classrooms in Ontario, share your book with them. Can you tell me a little bit more about that campaign and some of the other experiences you've had?
Yeah, awesome. So that's a really good question as well, because the book, yes, it raises awareness, but it also raises money for Holland Bloorview, which is where all the proceeds are being donated back to. So the goal is to reach $10,000. And to do so, we've partnered with organizations all across the country, from schools to hospitals. And sometimes that can look like just a donation of books. Sometimes that can look like a purchase of books. Sometimes that looks like social media features, newsletter promotions. And sometimes it just looks like me going in and giving workshops. So that's a little bit about that side. And then from the campaign, I've been able to have the opportunity to speak on many different platforms, from CTV to Toronto Star, and being featured in things like Toronto Star and Radio Canada. So it definitely extends outside the book, and we're also writing a second one now. So it continues to grow, and I absolutely love it.
And donating all of the proceeds from your book at such a young age, dare I say, I think that's huge. That's really amazing. What made Holland Bloorview really impactful in your life that you would choose that organization?
So that's where it all started. So that's the camp I volunteered at. It's called Spiral Garden. And for me, it was almost a no-brainer. I think championing inclusion, it can definitely be done through raising awareness. But then there's also people who need access to the services who might not be able to get them otherwise. So I'm really hoping to provide more kids with access to the services that they need to fully reach all their potentials that they can.
How did it feel being recognized, receiving a Difference Maker of the Year award from Rick Hansen School Program?
Also, a really good question. I had launched a campaign for about less than a year at that point, and I had submitted the nomination. Well, not me, but somebody submitted the nomination, and it was I don't know. It was just something I did, and then I was like, I'm not going to get it. This just. I kept going with what I was doing, and then one day I got an email in my inbox, and I was like, "Oh wow, okay, this is actually happening." And it was surreal because it started off with something so small like a book, and to actually think that it would have an impact is, you never think it's going to grow to be so big. And for me, it was an incredible moment, and it wasn't incredible because I had received an award. That's never the point. It was more so that now I have the opportunity to share my work with even more people. Especially Rick Hansen. He is an incredible individual, and I had the opportunity to meet him. And that was when the moment, it became real. When I had the opportunity to meet him, I was like, wow, that is truly an incredible award to have received, because he's an incredible person who has done absolutely incredible things.
Absolutely. And you've worked with the Rick Hansen Foundation as well, right, on the Youth Leadership Committee. Can you tell me about some more about the work you've done and what that's meant to you?
This is very true. I have been on the Youth Leadership Committee for about 6 months now, since the beginning of maybe October. And that work, we're currently working on a bunch of webinars for the upcoming terms for the school program. We're not too far into the planning, and I don't want to say anything too far into what it's going to look like, but it's really great to be connected with advocates all across the country, because you don't find a lot of people who are necessarily advocating to such a great extent. And it can sometimes be isolating, right? Like my peers in my class are not advocating like I am. And sometimes I'm managing a lot of things and time management. And, my life looks a little bit different because I choose to prioritize my work as an advocate, and meeting other people who are also very similar and who have a similar outlook, and who have different lived experiences, but everybody's trying to advocate towards inclusion, is truly wonderful. It's been an absolutely incredible experience.
And that kind of leads me into my next question, which is, did you have any ideas or any thoughts on how we can connect other people from mainstream audiences, maybe other, peers, some of your peers, with the disability community? How can we make other allies like you are? I know I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, but I'm just curious.
It's okay. I absolutely love the question because I don't have a disability. I'm an ally, and I choose to champion inclusion for this community because it's so important. And I think other people, I think if they see the value in doing
Mhm.
it and they see how impactful it can be and how many people truly can benefit from, even if it's something small that they're doing in their life, it can change somebody's mindset and if they choose to advocate or not. And I think one way of doing it is just to continue talking about it, connecting with people, never being shy. Capes for Kids is currently running, which is the campaign run by Holland Bloorview. I love wearing my red cape around for the month of February, and it's just a way that people can just ask me questions. So just all the time talking about it and just reaching out, never being shy, and just answering questions, answering all the questions, so that other people can learn, because learning and having knowledge is the most important aspect to becoming a knowledgeable advocate.
And knowledgeable advocate who can help answers those questions, take on a little bit of the mental load there as an ally. That's absolutely huge. What's next for you? What are your future plans? Can I ask?
This is such a good question. I want to go into pediatric medicine. Working with kids is absolutely one of my passions, but I also want to work in the medical field. My brother's condition has definitely motivated me and really ignited a passion within me for that. And then there might be a second book coming, and then there's a bunch of stuff planned for this year: webinars, more book readings, a bunch of programs. So I'm really excited. There's a lot, and if people are interested, you feel free to follow me on my book campaign on Instagram, and there'll be a bunch of different things coming out here and there throughout the year.
Thank you so much, Talina, for the work you're doing. Anything you'd like to add before we let you go?
I think the one piece of advice I have for anybody who is listening to this and who might be a younger advocate: just believe in yourself. Make sure you're reaching out to people if you need help, and never be afraid to kind of not know where it's going. Try things out. As long as you're true to the message you want to send, and the message is one that champions inclusion, you will get where you need to be, and people will support you along the way. So continue believing in yourself.
Thank you so much for joining us on The Pulse. We're going to move on now and chat with Teri Thorson, manager of Rick Hansen Foundation School Program. Teri, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks so much, Grant. And it's great to be here with you today in Vancouver, the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh Nation.
And thank you for joining us. Absolutely. And can you tell us a little bit about the Rick Hansen School Program and the outreach that you do?
Yeah, so our program provides educators with the resources and tools they need to help them create a new generation of accessibility champions. As you already mentioned, Grant, we have more than 2 decades of expertise. We make sure that all our resources are in both languages, French and English. They're age appropriate, so we have resources from kindergarten all the way to grade 12, and that they're also aligned to educational standards and curriculum to really make sure that we have an impactful learning experience. And also in addition to our online library, which is full of lessons and activities, we also have other resources. So we have professional development for educators. We have an online platform, as well as we provide workshops. So sometimes educators aren't really sure where to start to have disability conversations in their classroom. So this is a great way that can help them, create some more awareness for themselves. We also have ambassador presentations. So that provides youth with the opportunity to connect with the 1 in 4 Canadians with a disability. We focus on vision, hearing, and mobility disabilities. You mentioned the Difference Maker of the Year awards, and they recognize students in classrooms for projects that are improving accessibility and inclusion for people with disabilities in their schools and communities. And we've also talked a little bit about the Youth Leadership Committee. So this is just a platform for youth with and without disabilities to connect with one another and inspire each other, making positive change, and through mentorship, peer support. So we try to help them out with connecting them to experts in their areas of interest.
So let's chat a little bit more about the Difference Maker Awards. We heard from well, you know what? Let's start with Talina, a really amazing recipient that we just heard of. Can you talk a little bit about how she was selected as an award recipient and just the impact you've seen with some of her work?
Yeah, well, how we, I mean, nominations are open to anyone. We have a selection committee.
Uh-huh.
So the selection committee is comprised of former Difference Maker of the Word winners, as well
Cool.
as our youth leadership committee. Talina was not on the youth leadership committee at the time when she was selected, so there is no conflict.
No, yeah.
Um, we actually use the Difference Maker Awards to invite new YLC Youth Leadership Committee members. So we use that as an opportunity to kind of try to keep them connected to the accessibility and inclusion community, and keep them motivated in doing what they do. So there is a selection process. The nominations, we collect the nominations. We make sure that they are, can be, I mean, maybe they're not specific to hearing, vision, or mobility disabilities,
Mhm.
but that disability, that maybe those three disabilities are included or thought about, or it's easily transferable. So it's inclusive of all disabilities. So that's kind of how they're selected.
Mhm.
And yeah, but maybe
What's
for impact, maybe Talina's best to answer the impact question.
what would you say is the do you want to highlight any other past award recipients, or just some of the impact that you've seen from either Talina or others in the community?
Yeah, well, I think that, Talina spoke really great about,
Yeah.
the amazing work that she's been doing and the impact that that's making, which is amazing. We've had, I mean, that might seem like a big task to someone, but Difference Maker of the Year award recipients can just be, someone maybe in kindergarten or grade 4
Mhm.
that is including the students with disabilities, meeting up with them at lunchtime, including them in their recess activities with their friends. It could be as simple as that. We've also had a social media influencer raising awareness about disability, who received the Difference Maker of the Year award. We've had people that have created inclusive dances for,
Oh, that's
their
cool.
prom. We've had people that had made sure that wheelchair basketball was being offered through their school's current sports programming. So those are just some examples, from small to big.
Yeah,
Anyone can be a difference maker, really.
for sure. What impact have you seen just from the Rick Hansen School Program in general? Like really pushing the bounds on accessibility and inclusion in schools and communities.
Yeah, I think that, obviously, I think teaching and learning about disability, it really enriches the education that we're providing. I personally have met people that have had an ambassador come
Mhm.
into their classroom and said that it had such impact on them that, maybe before they were fearful or didn't know what to ask when they came across someone with a disability. And now they felt much more inclusive, much more comfortable. Even one person I had met was even working in the disability industry for a nonprofit. So I thought that was, obviously an incredible, long lasting impact.
Yeah, for sure. It's really cool, especially because kids are so curious. It's kind of just more in adulthood that people sort of shut down. I remember presenting as a Rick Hansen ambassador. I had someone
Yeah,
come up to me years later and remembered that I presented to their class. So
yeah,
that
exactly.
was really cool. So in your opinion, how can we encourage kids and teens later on in adulthood as well to become allies and embrace inclusion and accessibility?
Yeah, I think that, as accessibility and inclusion, they're not currently required components in the school curriculum. So I think that we really try to fill this gap by offering a whole host of ready to use materials on this subject. So educators really are not left on their own to find the lessons that really support these important teachings. And then they are, eventually when they go into the workforce, and or university, they're not caught off guard by someone with a disability. They know, how to be inclusive. They know that accessibility and inclusion exist, and that they're really important.
It's sort of interesting, isn't it? Because uh, everything from like diversity and inclusion, virtues, all kinds of stuff that's supposed to be taught in schools is very much expected, but like actually not really part of the curriculum. So I would imagine that a lot of educators would have challenges from straying from kind of like a medical or scientific model of disability.
Mm.
So something like this is really helpful to just bring people, those actual lived experiences.
Absolutely, Grant. That's such a great point. We really try to focus on the social model of disability, of course. And as a person who has a disability myself, I also really, really value that because, for me, I don't want to be looked at about what I can't do. It's what I can do, and it's also the barrier that is not the barrier is preventing me from doing something. It's not me as a wheelchair user that can't do something. And that's just really important, I think, to drive home to especially young people.
It's really huge. How has working with Rick Hansen School Program impacted you personally?
Well, Grant, you probably know this already, but, I started as an ambassador myself. I think probably when the Ambassador program first started, 20 some odd years ago. So, I always want to share about accessibility and inclusion. It's really important to me, which is why I came on board as an ambassador. And now, being the manager of the school program, you see the impact that all the resources has, and being able to work with the team that I have, who really has a lot of passion in this field, is just really incredible. So yeah, and I get to meet amazing people like Talina. So that's really exciting and cool.
It's just such a cool and inclusive community that is built around Rick Hansen Foundation, and that's definitely what I saw taking part in the school program. So nominations are open for the Difference Maker of the Year Awards until April 6th. Where can we follow your work, follow the awards, and maybe see who's receives the awards for this upcoming year?
Yeah, great question, Grant. So you can actually go to our website, so rickhansen.com, and we have a blog there that will be sharing information about our 24-25 award recipients. And if you want to nominate, as Grant said, the nominations are still open until April 6th. You can go to the schools and community sections on our website, and under Difference Makers, there you can find the nomination form. Maybe the only thing that I would add, Grant, is that we're here to support educators in not only their own awareness and education, but also in being able to teach these really important subjects to their class. And if they need any support at all, we're happy to help guide them. So they can email us at info@rickhansen.com directly, and we're here to help guide you on whatever resources might fit into what you're currently teaching.
What was it like for you being an ambassador? I thought it was just the coolest experience, both for the kids and for myself. Do you remember what it was like doing that for the first time?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's always nerve-wracking a little bit when you go, and especially actually kids, right? Because you never really know what they're going to say. So the
Mm.
one thing that I love about the little ones, like kindergarteners, primary, is really they never have any questions. The coolest thing I think about talking to that age group is they just want to connect with you. And usually it's about sharing their own experience of, disability and what that might look like. So I love that, I mean, it may not be somewhat, relatable to my experience, like I broke my arm,
Mhm.
but that's them trying to kind of figure it out. And I think that's a really great start. And then just really having the questions asked by some of the older secondary school that when they're very thoughtful about their questions and they're really interested to learn more. How do you drive? How did you have a child? How do you do things? So in the mechanical aspects of having a disability, um, I think that that's my favorite part is usually, answering their questions and hearing from them, their stories.
So interesting what you said about just connecting, because I remember talking about described movies and video, and a question I got was, "What's your favorite movie?" And I shared it, and the kids like, "Whoa, I know that movie as well." We kind of have something in common, so it just a simple little question like that, but really brings people together, and an environment where you're not just shut down and told to shut up and stop asking questions too, and that's really
Exactly.
helpful.
Yeah, no, exactly,
um,
Grant. That's such a great, I think experience that we all have. And I know, usually I would share that previously to my injury, I was a model and really in the fashion industry. And, someone that I had met later on, after she had graduated and we ran into each other randomly, and she had said, how she was really into fashion. And when I had talked to their elementary school, it just became, you become more relatable, right? You're not a disability anymore. You're now a
mhm,
person, right? Who likes the same movie as me or like has the same interests.
exactly, and that's fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Pulse, and can't wait to see what happens next with the Difference Maker Awards and the Rick Hansen School Program. Thanks a lot. Thanks again to Talina Papazian and Teri Thorson for joining us. Thanks for listening to The Pulse on AMI Audio. I'm Grant Hardy. You can catch The Pulse wherever you get your podcasts or watch our show on YouTube.